We are a team. As storytellers and dreamers,
there is always magic to discover.
Once upon a time,
a Las Vegas showgirl
and a comedian magician
figured out that even with different perspectives,
our adventures and experiences together
are really just
one big
caper.
This is Athena, I'm Phelyx, and this is One Big Caper. We are delighted that you would share this time with us. This is a podcast that just essentially covers conversations that we have with each other all the time, and for years we have yet to finish any one of those conversations, and now we do it publicly.
Yeah. Yep.
Today we have elected to revisit one of those discussions, and that is about the transferable skills that we acquired in our years of being entertainers.
Yeah. I don't have a list, and I guess I should have made notes, but...
Well, that's one of the things about this program is that it is completely unscripted. We bring up these prompts. We've, had these discussions, some of them more recently than others, but essentially we write down single word topics or just a few words to prompt these discussions, and then we try to keep it within a reasonable amount of time. Yeah. And we are absolutely willing to revisit any of these topics. If you decide that you have some input, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
As an entertainer, I have been a professional entertainer. I've been getting paid to do whatever it is I do for many years now. It has been well more than 2 decades that I had any kind of real job. And
lucky you.
Well, yeah, I suppose there are sacrifices, but I have visited the topic many times. What would I do if I couldn't be on stage anymore?
Well, yeah, that came up during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like hardcore.
Yes. And I had to discover skills that I have developed as a person in show business that were transferable to other tasks, other potential jobs or ways to earn a living. And I discovered one of those was that I fix stuff. I know how to fix stuff. And a lot of that comes from stagecraft and prop building and costume building and all of those things. And I was able to apply those skills to help people fix their homes.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. But, even non-vocationally, I have discovered a lot of skills that I've developed as a person in showbiz that applied elsewhere. For example, parenthood, cat herding.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I work at the airport. I see lots of families traveling all the time, and I am usually appalled by how unruly some people's kids are. And I see some families that they've got it together. We're a team. We work together. We're all moving together as a team. I don't know if those people were, and I should have asked them yesterday in the security line, because there was a couple that said, your kids are so well behaved. I wonder if they were performers in a time.
It's interesting. I don't...
Sorry, that's a whole other topic.
I can certainly criticize the way I've seen some people apply their parenting skills or lack thereof.
But so we're talking about transferable skills, mostly to vocational career jobs and things.
Sure.
But yes, parenting for sure.
In entertainment, I would say that that would come from teamwork.
Yeah.
It comes from, as a producer, there's a lot of cat herding in producing an event.
Are my entertainers going to show up today?
Sure. Audience management, that's a big one. And that might be a difference between your experience as a dancer, because as a dancer, there's a fourth wall there. And
yes.
I absolutely do not function with a fourth wall. In fact, everything I do as an entertainer is audience dependent.
Right. Right.
Which is lovely, but Yeah. So
Audience management.
yeah,
That's good. Yeah.
audience management is a big topic in what I do.
Yeah. Well, when I had to apply for a job in January,
Mhm.
I had to create a resume and I had to pull from stuff I've done in the past. Any resume, you're literally looking for all the transferable skills so that you can build a resume that makes you look good and gets you the job, right?
Mhm.
So I've taken a couple of resume classes and had some coaching on my resume. And a lot of the things that I learned being a professional dancer transfer to any job that I've applied for. Recently, it's serving. So being flexible has been really important in
Sure.
the last 6 months because there are people calling out every week, not because they're lazy. It's because we're all burnt out because we're all doing 3 people's jobs all the time. We are all so tired. We're all dropping like flies. And, we just have to be flexible and maneuver in a different way. And when I was on stage, if the elevators broke, if there was a costume malfunction, if the swing didn't know where they were going, we had to be flexible when we had to just go with the flow. And so to me, that's like a huge transferable skill that, comes in handy. If something goes wrong on stage, you have to figure it out. You can't freak out and do like my daughter does and, oh,
Crisis
crap,
management.
oh crap, crisis management.
It's true.
I guess, to me, it's just being flexible and being able to take, deal with what's dealt to you that day.
Sure.
Because like we talked in a couple episodes ago, you were wondering how the people of Forever Plaid was like Groundhog Day. It's not.
I have been enlightened, I suppose, and I've certainly had the experience of fourth wall
right
as an artist.
Yeah.
I've been in productions where we were performing
at an
a
audience.
rehearsed thing at an audience. Yeah.
Yeah. It's way more fun too. Well, I don't like to improv.
I know you don't. I will say that on topic, my brain suddenly went backwards in that I recognized that as an 8-year-old child, I committed myself to doing what I now do. I didn't know what the hell I was thinking.
Weirdo.
Yeah. But I'm doing what I decided to do when I was a child. It was actually throughout my life's experience, throughout my childhood, that I explored that and played with it to a degree that I didn't necessarily know what I was doing, but I studied different facets of entertainment, public speaking. I studied puppeteering. I studied mime. I studied a number of things that all funneled down into what I now do. And I recognize as an entertainer these days where some of my skills came from, and even puppeteering taught me a lot about hand movements and that kind of thing, but also voice and transferable skill sets that all culminated into whatever it is I do now.
Okay, so how about, this would be fun, to list out some of the skills we think are transferable to everyday jobs.
To entertainment or the
from
reverse? From entertainment to
yes, to everyday jobs.
Okay.
All right, so I said flexibility, teamwork, collaboration, because when you're in a show, you're working with other people. Even if you are a soloist and you're doing one act, one solo on stage, you still have to be mindful of other people, of the show time. You have to keep your act to a decent length, which you experienced recently in a show a couple of years ago, that someone hogged the spotlight for a little bit longer than they were supposed to. And so that affected the rest of the show. And because this pro over here was behind or afterwards, he trimmed his act so that the show could keep running on time.
That's an unforgettable experience.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Not only was the act not great and just getting worse by the second, but I felt like it was a very amateur thing to do. So anyway, that was a fake juicy bit.
It's kind of a juicy bit. I'll tell you the whole story sometime.
Yeah. So flexibility and collaboration, teamwork, and communication. So when you're a dancer on stage, you're not supposed to be talking. You can't be like, "Hey, move over here." Sometimes we'd have to yell because, it was a swing or whatever. But you'd have to figure out how to communicate, like you're in the wrong spot, or hey, you're my partner for this act or whatever. And you figure out ways to communicate in other ways than using words. So
it occurs to me that it would be very handy for dancers, especially in a big production like Athena was in, to learn ventriloquism, so that you could smile at your audience and yell at the person next to you.
Exactly. You're in the wrong spot, but I can't do it.
I can teach you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never took ventriloquism.
I did.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Of course you did.
I did.
So those are the ones that come off the top of my head.
Punctuality, precision, professionalism, all my P words.
Well, okay. Punctuality, you have to show up on time because you have a certain amount of time you have to get ready because, showgirls have a lot of makeup and wigs and hair and things, and they have to get their body ready to do the movements. Mm. So, we had to be there for a 7:30 show by 6:35 p.m. If you didn't sign in by 6:35, you were in trouble. Mm. So that was, learning punctuality. There were some, they were always late. It was just like every day they were always late. I never understood it because I got there at like 6 or 5:30 and had the whole theater to myself, and it was quiet, and yeah.
That's a personality type.
Yes. So punctuality. And what was the other one you said?
Precision.
Okay. Well, we talked a little bit about that in our last episode. We talked about academia. Mm-hmm. So you take those skills that, practice precision, and you transfer them to the stage. And what was the other one? Your other P? Punctuality. Professionalism, which we've talked about in a previous episode, that we had a hilarious juicy bit about being professional backstage, mm-hmm. and not having a Brazilian wax in the dressing room. Yeah. So professionalism. But these things, to me, I'm just like, why doesn't everybody have this kind of work ethic? But
here's the thing. And I'm reminded of there's the 80s song Money for Nothing. The perception that song is written about people's perception of musicians and how they're doing nothing, and it's easy, and they get their money for nothing, and chicks for free is the lyric.
Really?
But it's this perception that musicians don't work. And that same perception applies to dancers and magicians. And as entertainers, it would be a very long list for us to describe everything that is involved, even learning the language of theater so that we can communicate with our tech, with the technical crew who are running things. The amount of education and knowledge and discipline that has to go into being an entertainer is on par with any other discipline, I think, any other profession. Yeah. So that's a challenge, but these are all transferable skills. It is transferable to have a working knowledge of how a theater works. How do they sell the tickets? What goes into marketing a show? What goes into
marketing, for sure?
Yeah.
I don't know. Since we're talking about transferable skills, I don't know how knowing about lighting and where you're supposed to be on stage has to do with going to do a desk job.
What are we doing right now? We're applying lighting. We have sound. We have technical things going on right now. We have costume going on right now.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, I understand how we use these skills, but we're talking about people going into regular jobs,
Well, define
not
a
trying to
regular
record
job.
their own podcast or become
Right.
a YouTuber or things like that. Right?
Yeah, I think you would have to define a regular job. I mean, are you imagining a cubicle? Are you imagining an office? Are you
Okay,
imagining
so right now my regular job is being a server.
Right.
Okay, so lighting doesn't really matter. It does in one case because the heat comes in through the sun, the window. The sun comes through the window and makes us all hot. So we pull the shades. I'm not trying to be snappy. I'm
Showbiz to
just
what
trying
you do.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
is for sure.
Right.
So define a regular job. A regular job to me is someone who goes 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever your schedule is, around about those times, going into an office or a place of business that is not on stage. That's a regular job. So it could be a restaurant worker. Those have different hours, but they're still going to a place of business.
Sure.
But they're still employing entertainment skills. Like, you have to be on. That movie, is it called Waitressing or Waiting? Where there's that one character who is like back behind in the kitchen, and as soon as she walks out the door, she has this beautiful smile. That's me.
That's showbiz. So there's another P.
That's showbiz. Yeah.
There's another P, which is personal. You gotta leave your personal stuff out of the theater.
Yeah. If you don't, then you are you upset the audience. The audience didn't get what they paid for.
I guess I have a juicy bit on that.
Oh, good.
subject.
Okay. Do you want to do it now?
Sure.
Okay.
I often get asked, mostly by other entertainers, but was there a favorite show or a best show? People want to know about the worst show too. And I have so many of those that I don't have a number one worst show.
I do, but
okay. But I can tell you that at the time I was the best, the most effective at being an entertainer. And, I don't want to bring things down, but I find it fascinating. And looking back over however many shows I've done, thousands, the one show that I was the best at, that I had the most reaction from my audience, and I can't explain how this happened, but it was 5 minutes before I was being introduced by an MC that I learned that my best friend died.
Oh.
And I don't know what happened in me, but I was able to go out and entertain, and apparently I was amplified or extra dedicated to entertaining or something. But I can tell you that was my most effective show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You felt like that, or you got the feedback back?
No, when I was done, I could feel it from the audience that I was pretty good that day.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't know how or why, but I was able to put that aside and not fall apart, and I was able to go out and do my job.
I know why.
Okay.
And I think I told you this when you told me this story. I didn't think that was going to be your juicy bit, but
it just occurred to me that, like, people want to know, but it's important to be able to do your job and to put your personal stuff down and execute your job.
And I think that is a product of people with trauma, is they can compartmentalize or disassociate from things. That's what I think.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Not saying that all entertainers have been traumatized.
I can't say that all entertainers
are good at dissociating.
Can put their personal stuff aside. We saw a comedian in Las Vegas.
Oh my God, another juicy bit. Yes.
A personal meltdown on stage. It was hard to watch. It was
really
a tragedy. This is a comedian who was supposed to come out and make us laugh.
Yeah, it really was. They must have gotten some bad news that day or something.
I don't know what happened, but it was just a
yeah, it was
confession.
It was a confessional on stage.
Oh dear.
It was Really, yeah, it was hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like looking at each other like, is this really happening? And the audience didn't know what to do because everything this guy was saying wasn't funny. It was really sad. And he was supposed to be a comedian and make people laugh. And we were just like,
There was not one joke in his set.
no. It was, wow. Yeah. So that compartmentalizing. And I think that that's a great transferable skill to have in a work environment, for example, because if something happens between two people, hey, how about a relationship that's not supposed to happens and it goes south? They have to figure out how to work together or somebody has to leave. And that's why most corporate places don't allow dating in the workplace.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense because I don't think people are that skilled at like compartmentalizing those kinds of things,
Not in general.
you know?
Not in general.
Yeah. So, what else? I'm trying to think of other transferable skills. We've learned marketing.
Had to learn marketing.
Yeah.
Costuming, set design. I've applied that to other things.
Costuming. Hey, how about like, how would this apply to our friends here listening? How does costuming apply?
Everything from color theory to maintenance. I mean, there's a lot to costuming. There's a lot to understanding what flatters your complexion. There's what flatters your physique.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was thinking more maintenance, like maintenance
is a.
like if your bra strap pops.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
I
wearing
have
straps.
I have repaired countless brassieres backstage.
Yep.
But that's because I have weird skills.
Because you can
I have
sew.
a skill set. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy at work, 25 years old, doesn't know how to sew on a button. He lost a button on his shirt. We used to have button-down shirts as our uniform. He couldn't wear the shirt.
My father insisted that I was able to.
Oh, I thought it was
To do a little bit of sewing.
Boy Scout. No, I think you did tell me your dad taught you, but I
Yeah.
thought it was a Boy Scout thing. Like you had to learn to sew a button. You
Oh,
know,
that
like
was- yeah.
in the theater, you learn these things. You either gaff tape the thing together, or
I've seen people use staplers on their costumes or. Oh dear.
I mean, there's a better way. They're called safety pins.
Right.
Like you don't
Yeah,
really
I've
want to
I've
put
seen,
safety pins like
just-
on a tutu because if they're being partnered, they could stab the partner and there could be blood all over the costume. So we don't use safety pins on tutus. But there have been times where we had to use safety pins on G-strings or, feather packs or things just so that they could just get on with the show. And that's another thing, perseverance. That's like a huge thing in performing. The show must go on. When you're in a dinner rush at a restaurant or you are against the wall for a deadline, project due date deadline, like the show must go on. I mean,
Thanks for another P word, by the way. We've come
you're
up with a
welcome.
good
There's
list.
we're gonna have to
perseverance. You're
make a
you're
blog
not
about
kidding.
it. Seriously.
You can't just sit down and cry when you're in the weeds.
Sometimes I've had to talk, like recently last week there was one of the other servers was in the weeds and I had to make contact with him. I don't like to touch people because I'm like, I'll touch everybody, but it's a different environment. People could be a little bit more sensitive. I put my hand on his back and I said, okay, I'm here for you. You don't have to tell me what you need. I'm going to go check on your tables. You just focus on this. And I abandoned all my 7, 8 tables that I had going. And I made sure that his tables were okay because he was about to lose it. Like the manager was on a different fire. I had no fires. All my tables were happy. And this other server was also having fires. So I was just like volleying between the two. What do you need? What do you need? Because I knew that if either one of them fell apart, the manager would then have to jump in. Or one of the stronger servers would have to jump in to take over because this person started to fall apart. So I was like coaching and I was doing. And there have been days where I was losing it and I couldn't. I had to it's something deep within that you just like dig into. I'm not sure. I can't describe it. It could be related to my childhood trauma. It could be related to all the hours I spent on stage and having stuff go wrong. But you just like, you dig in, and it's like something deep that you just like pull out of you and you just get through.
Mhm.
Like, I think that might be what you dug into, something to get you through that show after you learned that she had passed.
Right.
So perseverance. That's like, I think that's like the ultimate transferable skill, because I've been in corporate environments doing as a graphic designer and in marketing departments where everything's falling apart, and there's like, here's my juicy bit.
Okay.
I was in a conversation with my art director and the marketing director, and there was a deadline coming up, and I don't remember the specifics, but all I remember was that she was flipping the F out. So much so, and this was in the hallway, it wasn't in a meeting in an office, that she threw all the papers up because she didn't know how to handle it. And all I could do was laugh. And it was probably not the appropriate response because I got fired a few weeks later, but all I could do was laugh because she could not handle the pressure. It was unreal. And that company's gone now. Like, that company is defunct, bankrupt, out there because it was such a toxic place. But perseverance is, I think, how people get up in the morning and go do a job that they hate.
Yes, I think it's commonly, this is not a universal rule necessarily, but I think it's very common that the most difficult thing to do is muster the whatever it takes to get there, and then you're kind of okay.
Yeah.
In most cases.
I
But
think
yeah,
that's the same with exercise.
sure.
Get your butt on a yoga mat, get your butt to the class. That's the hardest part. It's like 90% of that struggle.
I don't think I've ever had a scheduled appearance or performance that I had to begrudgingly go to. So that's interesting.
I'm trying to think.
I
think as a ballerina, I had that.
Okay.
And it was only because I was miserable. Like
Right.
I wasn't allowed to self-express. I had to be perfect. I had to be by the book, So I wasn't allowed to be myself, which I thought that's why they hired me. But yeah. Are there any other transferable skills that are like?
Oh, I'm sure there's a host of them. I think of them now and again.
Yeah.
And a new one will occur to us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I like that we've had this discussion, because if you think about this, you have certainly had experiences that are transferable. It gave you transferable skills to other things that you do,
Yeah.
And
Hobbies and things like that. Yeah.
The parenthood one just came to me while we were sitting here, but there are a lot of skills that we learned as entertainers that certainly helped us as parents.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even realize that, but yeah, you're right. For sure. Yeah.
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 If you come up with others, let us know. And by all means, get a hold of us any old time at hello@onebigcaper.com.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
We can't keep doing this without you. Give us just a little bit of your time by subscribing, sharing, rating, or talking about One Big Caper with someone else. We truly appreciate your support.
We want to hear your stories. Visit onebigcaper.com to get to know us even more.
This episode of One Big Caper was published in 2022. All rights to broadcast in whole or in part are the property of Gazellas Productions, LLC.